Hello everyone, it's Rabbi Chaitovsky with another video dvar here from my office at BMH-BJ in Denver, Colorado. This week's Torah portion is the Torah portion of Pinchas. Pinchas was a Kohen, and Pinchas acted in an extremely zealous and decisive way by killing two people who were flagrantly violating a sexual standard in the community. And the two people involved were Zimri, the son of Salu. He was the Nasi for the tribe of Shimon. And the woman involved was a Midianite princess, that's what our tradition says, named Cosbi bat Tzur. And Pinchas's action is praised by the Torah. He is credited with depleting and deflating God's anger and turning the tide away from a plague that was ravaging the Jewish people. And the reward for this is God's promise of a Brit Shalom, a covenant of peace. The question is, what do we really make of Pinchas's action? Gemara has a wide-ranging discussion and says, in the strict context of this particular event, coming on the heels of the insurrection of Korach, followed by the story of Balak hiring Bilam to curse the Jewish people. And even after Bilam seems to recognize his true, deeper calling, which is not to curse the Jewish people, but to praise them, he still hands over the secret, or a secret, one final thing to ensnare the Jewish people, and that is to try to have Moabite women seduce them. And that seduction leads to a prince and a princess cavorting almost publicly in violation of the community norms. And Pinchas must act decisively to put an end to that, and he does. So in that context, the Gemara is willing to give credence to the Torah in praising Pinchas for what he did. But the Gemara goes on to say that under the normal, everyday circumstances, under normative halacha, for a person to take the law into his own hands, even motivated by zealotry for God, is dangerous and would undermine and rip at the fabric of halacha. It would lead to chaos, and it would lead to something other than that which is desirable. And the Gemara says that the point is proven by the fact that God's promise or God's blessing to Pinchas is that of peace. Pinchas needs the blessing of peace. The old folk tale in Jewish tradition of Kohanim being hotheads actually comes from this story of Pinchas. And Pinchas is given the blessing of peace. And the question is, do we ever see that? Does Pinchas ever achieve that blessing of peace? And the answer is yes. In the book of Joshua, we know that half of the tribes of Reuven, Gad, and Menashe, they return from the Transjordan. They return from the other side where they were, and they construct a large altar. And this made the other Israelites very, very disappointed. They think that that these tribes have abandoned God, and the Israelites are preparing for war against their own, against these three groups of people. Pinchas, once again, springs into action. He's going to make a decisive move that is going to save the day. But this time, instead of that decisive move being one of violence, Pinchas becomes the diplomat. Pinchas becomes a broker of peace, brokering a compromise and an understanding between the two sides, and helping each side understand that the other had the best intentions and neither side was abandoning their purpose. Diplomacy, compromise, and ultimately the goal of peace is what Pinchas achieves. So that blessing given to Pinchas in this week's Torah portion becomes a reality in the book of Joshua. And the Gemara goes on to record the opinion of Rav Ashi, one of our greatest sages, who said that Pinchas really didn't become a true Kohen until he brokered that peace. His Brit of Kehuna was activated by his attention to the Brit of peace. Peace is the ultimate goal. Peace in everything, peace in the home, peace between friends, peace between enemies, peace between various factions, peace between political parties. We can't ignore that in this season. This is a political season. And I don't know what's going to happen, but we're in the period now, having just celebrated or just marked the fast of Shivasar B'Tammuz. We're in the 3-week period where we know that it was a lack of peace. It was factionalism. It was a lack of the ability to get along that ultimately sowed the seeds of destruction for the Jewish people. That's what Chazal say. That's what our rabbis say. This Torah portion is instructive because the ultimate goal must be a coming together, must be one where we achieve peace. We work for peace, we talk about peace, and ultimately the blessing comes true that we achieve peace. I wish all of you a Shabbat Shalom, a Shabbat filled with peace and tranquility. We'll see you in Shul.